We're talking about solving quadratic functions by completing the square. We want to solve quadratic equations by using the square root property and solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So the square root property can only be used to solve the quadratic equation when the side containing the quadratic expression is a perfect square. So the quadratic expression meaning that we have the x squared term on that side. So here we have x squared equals n, and that will be a perfect square. So in order to solve this equation, on the left side we have the quadratic term, and what we can do is we can take the square root of both sides, and whenever we take the square root when solving, we get x on this side, and then we get plus or minus 8. So that gives us two possible solutions. So if we take x squared equals n, then we take the square root of both sides and we get plus or minus the square root of n, which is what we have here. Now we're looking at this example, and in order to use the square root property, the side containing the quadratic term, in this case the x squared term, has to be a perfect square. Well, right now, in the form that this is on the left side, it is not a perfect square, but we can change that and we can factor that and see what it ends up to become. So if we factor this, it's still going to be equal to 64. X times x is x squared, and two numbers that multiply together to get us to 49 would be 7 and 7, and then they have to add to 14, so they're both addition. And now on this side, on the left, we can rewrite this as x plus 7 squared, because we have two x plus 7s. That's still going to be equal to 64. Now, this is a perfect square on the left side, so we can take the square root in order to solve this. So we take the square root of both sides, and anytime we take the square root of both sides, we get plus or minus. So we get x plus 7 equals plus or minus 8. Now we need to get x by itself. So we subtract 7. I want to put that x there. We subtract 7, and we get x is equal to plus or minus 8 minus 7. So that ends up giving us two possible solutions. So we have to consider both plus 8 and minus 8. So x equals negative 8 minus 7, which in that case is going to be x equals negative 15. And the other solution possibly could be a positive 8. So x equals positive 8, still minus 7. So then we get x is equal to positive 1. So in this case, we get two solutions. And then we can take a look at what that looks like in the graph. So we have our graph right here, and we can see that we have the point negative 15, 0, and we have the point 1, 0. And so that is where we would get our solution, or where the parabola crosses the x-axis.